Hey everyone. Okay, so I'm prepared to get a lot of flack, a lot of hate, and a lot of downvotes for what I'm about to say, first off, but I didn't hate this episode. I kind of liked it. As weird as that sounds. Like, okay, I'll, the first thing to talk about with this episode is, and something I had forgotten about until rereading Volume 2 for this review, is they did cut out the entirety of seeing Arthur survive in the wild before meeting Sylvia. And this might come as a shock to some, but I'm personally caught between two mindsets with this change. On one hand, I think cutting the entirety of it out was a mistake because a lot of that is character building for Arthur and showing his determination to survive and reunite with his family. And like, because for all the flash and cool factor of the series spotlights, Arthur's love for his new family is the heart of this story. Cutting all of Arthur's struggle out is a mistake, but in saying that, while I don't like that they cut everything out, I would have been okay if they trimmed certain sections down, because admittedly, even in the webcomic, the lead up to meeting Sylvie did feel a touch bloated. Now, in saying that, there is something to note about Sylvia's demon form in this episode, which is that it's more detailed than it was in the webcomic, and I know that sounds weird to have a critique of, but it is one of those moments that makes you say, okay, this is where the budget went. it was towards the design of Sylvie's demon form. Now, like I said, there is there's a very interesting trade-off with this episode, which is that even though they cut down the build-up towards meeting Sylvie, it did still feel like a good choice to refocus this episode on Sylvie and Arthur. Although even then it did still simultaneously cut some stuff out in terms of like the time Arthur spends with Sylvie as well. So or at best we kind of breezed through some of that stuff as well. And like even cutting out like one thing that was cut out of like even the Sylvie and Arthur bits of the episode was a moment where Arthur shared with Sylvie his nickname, Art, showing how much Arthur came to trust Sylvie. And that's kind of one of those things where the problem I do have with this episode is that there is a sort of a problem of perception of time with this episode, because it feels like the anime makes it feel like no time has passed at all, but in reality, like Arthur spent like quite a few years with Sylvie, so it's like, yeah, even though we technically do see him grow in the episode, it's not presented very well either. And the weirdest part of this episode is that despite slimming down in some places, I feel it's still tapped enough into showing Arthur finally finding his humanity, where when he was King Grey, he was cold, unfeeling, and just didn't see any value in bonds of friendship or family. But now with this episode and the time Arthur spends with Sylvie, we basically see he's opened up. He's understood. He understood how important. He understands how important those relationships are, and wants to protect them. And Sylvie is offering, and that's shown in how Sylvia offered to kind of train Arthur. But I also like how another lesson Sylvia imparts to Arthur in this episode is the idea of compassion over vengeance. That it is important to protect what you have, but you don't need to be a ruthless monster to do it all the time. And I think that is the part of this episode and the webcomic that arguably did start to feel a little shonen-esque, mind you, but I do think it works here because Arthur had always been so disconnected from his emotions in his previous life. So for him, it's about discovering that he is more than just the heartless King Grey he used to be. Again, it could have. Again, admittedly, it could have all been reinforced a little better in the anime, but the stuff we do get, I think, works just enough. But okay. No beating around the bush. Let's talk about the reveal that Sylvia wasn't in fact a demon, but rather a dragon, and in her final moments entrusts Arthur with both her power and an egg. So, yeah, this is pretty much, as weird as it sounds, this is pretty much where Arthur's journey really begins. Now, the interesting thing about this to me is the anime actually reveals Sylvia's identity as a dragon slightly earlier than the webcomic does. In the webcomic, it's in her dying moments that she reveals herself. Because throughout like 90% of the time Sylvia is with Arthur, she remains in her sort of demon form, and even almost to even to the final, mostly the final moments of the fight. But here, it's kind of revealed. It's basically her form as a dragon. Her true form as a dragon is revealed like moments before, is revealed even moments before she died. Whereas in the webcomic, it was in her dying moments where she revealed it. So it's a small change, but it's one I'm actually kind of okay with. I don't mind this change. Now unfortunately, that does also kind of get into another conversation where the animation was still quite rigid. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. The animation was still kind of a problem with this episode, but in execution, I don't hate this. I don't hate the small change either. And I'll be honest, even though there was the usual mess ups in this episode, I do admit I ultimately do like how they handled the farewell between Arthur and Sylvia. Like the acting in that scene was generally good, and more specifically, it is to say that they got playing Sylvia that really sold that scene for me as a whole. Like the actress playing Sylvia has a very motherly quality to her that just really fit everything about this episode to me. And so as a whole, this episode is one that still has a lot of the usual problems, but there were some small victories with this episode as well. And I'll say this much: it was a very pretty episode. Like for basically all the, even though there are still a lot of technical flaws with this adaptation, the animation, obviously, I will admit it was a very artistic. There was a lot more artistic value to this episode than I think most people are willing to give it. Like again, it's still not obviously of the quality of the web comic, but it does feel like there is like there was at least an attempt to get a little more artistic with the episode, so to speak, a little more artistic, and actually kind of give something a little more, just something that feels a little bit more unique compared to previous episodes where it was like, yeah, they're just going through the motions, so to speak. And I felt this especially in the egg scene. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Blue Sky, Analyst Crunchyroll, push the notification bell with the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of an Ace signing off. Later, everyone.